Welcome back. Oratio, by reason alone, we're looking at the attributes of God. You might say, gives you the authority to determine what the attributes of God are. Great question. My authority is the biblical real estate, the proportionality of the scriptures. These are the attributes of God so far: tribal, violent, misanthropic, pragmatic. God is technical. I don't know why people don't say this. I think people think this is boring, but it's actually a quite important aspect of his character, and it's quite often revealed in the Bible. And again, when I say it's God's character, part of my support for that is it's what Jesus does too, and it's what Paul does too. And this is support for the consistency of the scriptures and for their claims to be messengers of God. The prophets are all the same way. God is technical. He's very specific. What do I mean by technical? He's very specific. I want to incorporate into the word technical authoritative, because what I mean by that is he has very specific instructions, and the things that he reveals specifically, he's firm on that. So not only is it specific, it's firm, technical. God is not, sometimes he's presented as like a vibe or a feeling. I think when a lot of people think about God, Christians and otherwise, they think about like an ethereal ball of gas or something like that, that like kind of like permeates everything. We could talk about, that's another attribute of God, discreet. That would be very controversial. I don't have that plan, but that's probably in the top 10. God, that's a huge problem for, a lot of theology, but God is specific. He's not a vibe or a feeling. He is a technical architect. He's not roughly something. He's a technical architect who demands precise compliance. He's not super open-minded. He's definitely values authority over open-mindedness. The more vague that we make God, the more we can get out of the specifics. That's just common sense. That's what kids try to do, and adults are like. When we want to get out of something, we try to make it a little more fuzzy than it really is. And so we would prefer to have a God who gives principles that are more adaptable. He is pragmatic. I'm saying in the things that he has revealed as technical and specific, of which there are many, those things God expects us to understand the technicality and the specificity of. He gives specific measurements all the time in the Bible, specific names for things. He says, I want you to call it this for this reason. I want you to make it like this for this reason. It's very my way or the highway. It's very authoritarian. It's very patriarchal. That might be why it's kind of not discussed very much. He gives a lot of ultimatums. And we think people that do that are kind of mean, and it's perhaps caused us to avoid looking at this aspect of God. And so what is the evidence for this? In the Old Testament, there's so much specificity in the Old Testament. It's one of the things that really separates the whole Bible from other religious books, in my opinion. I would say like probably some of the best reasons, if I had to give a reason to somebody for why would I take the Bible seriously but not another religious book, I find the Bible to be the most specific. I've never heard anybody else argue that way. That's always struck me. It's the most technical. It's the most precise of them, like by a lot. A lot of the other ones are super vague. And if you disagree, let me know. Give me some reasons for the superiority as far as precision of a different religious book. That's one reason why you would trust one thing over another. Is it not? Is that not what lawyers or judges would consider maybe in deciding authenticity of something? Do we not judge the credibility of stories by how specific they are? Doesn't mean they're definitely true, but it's an indicator. So I'm glad that God's super specific and technical in the Bible. Helps me every time it's so specific, it helps me believe it. It's not the only reason, but it's a great one. God gives real specific instructions in the book of Exodus for building the tabernacle. He doesn't say do it the way you want to do it in a way that you think looks nice. He gives the specs. He gives the blueprints. He gives the exact measurements, cubits, what type of wood to use, the number of loops. If you got the technical details wrong, if you were building that tabernacle, you got killed. You were on the chopping block. You might say, I'm thinking of Leviticus 10, where the priests they offer strange fire. They do the ritual wrong in a way that God didn't outline. He kills them for it. You might say that's so mean. If you don't believe the Bible, that's probably would be a good takeaway. If you believe the Bible, it just means that that's how God is. And in fact, the reason I use harsh language sometimes is because I actually think that it's like a bitter pill to swallow, but it's actually sweet. The aftertaste is sweet. It's good that he's so specific. It means that he takes things seriously. We wouldn't really want a leader that doesn't really care at the end. That's like sometimes we think we want chill rulers and leaders, but in some things you don't really want a chill ruler, like matters of life and death. So I'm glad that I can have a God believe in a God that's so technical, because I know that when he lays out the technical specs for something, he's dead serious about it. And so if I want him to be dead serious about the things that I want, that I think are good, that I'm so confident I believe are accurate and specific, I've gotta be okay with him doing that in other ways that make me more uncomfortable. It's worth it. Jesus is very technical. People don't like this. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. It's a very technical statement. Narrow is the way, broad is the gate that leadeth to destruction. He's saying the way is very specific. It's very technical. He's not open-minded about other paths. Well, I could see how you could take another way. And no, he's not saying even that they wind up coming around to the same technical way. He says the broad is the way that leads to destruction. So the vague ways don't wind up in the same technical place. And that's impossible. Going down two different paths is going down two different paths, technically. Now, if you want to be more of a hippie about it, you want to say, well, and it all winds around the same thing. But God doesn't do that. He doesn't say that. He's more specific than that. He's more technical. And he's more violent than that. And he's more tribal than that. And he's more misanthropic than that. All these things I'm saying build on each other. And he's more pragmatic than that. There is a technical bottleneck through which humanity must go according to Jesus. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 14:37, Paul says, if any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord. Paul isn't offering suggestions. Well, how do you get around a statement like that? He says, listen, my way or the highway. If you think you're a prophet or you're spiritual or you're on God's team, he doesn't say that's just great. You're on the right track. He says, if you want to be right, agree with me. Paul says, you want to be right, you want to be spiritual, sola ratio. What is it to be spiritual? To have a nice feeling, according to Paul, to have a warm, fuzzy feeling, to do great deeds, to do miracles even, to heal people. What does Paul say? If you are a spiritual person, agree with me. Acknowledge that the things I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord. Give your mental assent to my sentences. That's how God is. That's what God thinks being spiritual is. So a lot of times comments on these videos will say, they'll imply, I'm not being very spiritual, that somehow rationality is contrary to being spiritual. I find the exact opposite sentiment here in Paul. Paul says, if you think you're spiritual, acknowledge that what he says are the commandments of the Lord. That's what I'm doing. So how am I not following instructions? I am acknowledging that what God says is correct. Technically, rationally. That's the whole point of sola ratio. It's to acknowledge that the things that Paul and Jesus and God, that they write and that are written about them, that are part of the revelation, are correct. That's what it is to be spiritual. Paul is not offering suggestions. He is laying out a technical code for the church. What is the technical code? You got to read the rest of the stuff. I'm just saying he believes he's technical. He believes the truth is technical. He says in Galatians 1:8, if anyone, even an angel, preaches a different gospel, means comes with a different message, comes with a different sentence. He says, technically, the sentences that I am saying are correct. They are the standard of spirituality. He says, even if there is some higher power, some supernatural entity that says something technically different than what I'm saying, Paul says they should be accursed. Spirituality is not found in some type of feeling or miraculous act or something. It is found in the rationality of the sentences and in the technical accuracy of the sentences. A lot of times I tell people you just read the Bible according to the laws of logic, and that's the interpretation. And that's how we could all be on the same page, literally. And they say, well, the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible doesn't say that you have to follow the law of non-contradiction. That's what Paul just said. He just said that you have to follow the law of non-contradiction. If there is a statement that is fundamentally different than this statement, That's a different statement. It's contradictory, and that's wrong. And I'm right. That's what I mean by the laws of logic. So they're all over the Bible. We have got to understand the Bible by reason alone and not by our emotional, cultural, traditional preferences. Thank you for watching.